Tomato sauces taste better, so I'm going to start with the onions. So here are my onions on low heat with about a tablespoon of oil. 2 onions chopped up roughly. A tablespoon of oil. I'm going to let this heat up slowly while I prepare my other stuff, my other ingredients. 4 carrots. I would have used 2 large ones, but I couldn't find them, so I'm going to use these 2 small carrots that I'm going to peel, and then I'm going to grate them. So I'm going to peel them and grate them next. While you're grating your carrots, you want your onions to go nice golden brown color. Although you can't really tell with red onions, but with white onions you can tell whether they're golden brown or not. So I'm going to make these go golden brown on medium heat while I grate my carrots. The extra bits of carrot that I can't grate, I just put them in here. Before I put in my grated carrots, I'm just going to add some olives, green sliced olives. They are pipped and seedless. I'm going to remove the water, the brine in it. I'm going to drain out the brine and add it to the pasta. I know a lot of people don't like olives, so if you don't like olives, don't put them in. If you like olives, make sure they're seedless, they've been pipped. I love olives, so I've added a lot. I'm just gonna let it fry with the onions. I've drained out the brine, the liquid. I'm just gonna let them fry in the onions for a few minutes while I finish grating my carrots, and next I'm gonna add in the carrots. All of this is on medium heat. Just let them fry together for a few minutes before adding in the carrots. Okay, I've just put in the grated carrots. I'm going to let them all fry together for a few minutes in the olive oil with the olives. I added 100 grams of olives. You can add half of that if you don't like too many olives. You can add 50 grams, or you don't have to add it at all. It's up to you. So next I'm going to prepare my tomato, but before that I'm just going to put in 1 large tablespoon of minced garlic in here. Okay, so I've added about a tablespoon and a half of garlic. You know I love garlic. You don't have to add all this garlic. This is about 8 or 9 cloves, I'm guessing. You can just mince up 5 or 6 cloves, but the more garlic you put in pasta, the better. So I'm just going to fry all this together while I prepare my tomato base, my tomato sauce. I'll show you how I prepare that as well. So we're just going to fry this together for a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to add these 2 green peppers. I'm going to chop them up into large pieces and put them in my blender with my tomato pieces like this, because they are going in the blender. They're going to go in the blender. So don't worry about it. Yeah, they're going to be large pieces like this. They're going to go in the blender. While I'm preparing the tomato sauce, I just added 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. You can add in white sugar. 1 teaspoon of sugar, just to cut the acidity of the tomatoes that are going to go in next. So you just put it in with your fried onions and carrots and olives and garlic. So just put 1 teaspoon of sugar while I prepare the tomato sauce. Okay, my green peppers are ready. And to it, I'm going to add in a tin of chopped tomatoes. Just a normal tin of tomatoes. It can be chopped, plum, any kind of tomatoes. So you just put it in a tin of tomatoes in here. So I put in the tomatoes in the blender with, I'm going to add half a cup of water as well. Half a cup of water. Okay, I've also put in a large handful of coriander, fresh coriander or cilantro, whatever you know it is. Make sure you wash the coriander thoroughly, because sometimes there's a lot of soil in it. And if it has soil in it, it'll ruin your dish, your tomato pasta. So make sure you wash it properly. And now I'm going to blitz it all together in the blender. for like 2 minutes. Okay, my veg is frying up nicely together. Before I add the tomato, I'm going to add some spice. So this is a tablespoon, some of it spilled, a tablespoon of mixed curry powder. So it's like a curry powder. Just mixed spices. So I added a tablespoon. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of coriander powder. Okay, next to go in is a tablespoon of coriander powder. I'm going to fry this together for a few minutes before adding in my tomato paste, tomato sauce. My blended tomato sauce. So I'm going to fry this together for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, so I've blitzed up my tomato, coriander and green peppers with a bit of water in here. I've been blitzing it for around 2 minutes. Now I'm going to put it in the pan. Okay. I've put about a cup of water in my blender to make sure I get all the tomato sauce out. I put a cup of warm water, hot water in there actually, it's quite hot water. And here it is, I put the tomato in. I'm going to bring this to a boil on high heat before adding in my cauliflower and my chicken stock. So I'm going to put this on the highest heat now to bring it to a boil. I'm going to add these 2 chicken stock next. They're quite salty, so I'm not going to put any salt in the pasta. I might check for salt at the end if I need any extra salt, but I don't think I will. So I'll put these 2 chicken stock in here. You can add salt to taste if you want yours saltier at the end, but be careful of the salt. This will be fine because these 2 chicken stock are quite salty. If you want, you can use vegetable stock if you want to make your pasta vegetarian, because everything else I put in here is vegetarian apart from the chicken stock. So you can put in vegetable stock and add salt to taste if your stock is not salty like mine. Okay, I'm going to add this. This is Italian seasoning. It says pizza seasoning, but it's basically Italian seasoning. I'm only going to put a tiny amount, probably less than a quarter of a teaspoon. That's a very tiny amount. If you put too much, it'll ruin the food. It's got oregano in it, and basil, dried basil, and marjoram, and other Italian herbs. So it's Italian seasoning. I've just put in a small amount. Make sure you don't put too much, otherwise it'll give it a funny taste. You don't want too much in it. The small bit goes a long way, so less than a quarter of a teaspoon. Very small, tiny amounts. This is also optional. I put in a tablespoon of onion powder. This is optional. I know sometimes it's difficult to find. So a tablespoon of onion powder. Okay, my sauce is bubbling nicely. And next I'm going to add paprika powder. Just a little bit, probably half a teaspoon. I would say half a tablespoon. I'll add half a tablespoon. Next, I'm going to add 450 grams of cauliflower, frozen cauliflower. 450 grams of frozen cauliflower. I'm going to put it in my sauce that's bubbling nicely. I'm going to bring it to a boil after I put in the frozen cauliflower. So I added the cauliflower. You want to bring this to a boil. And I'm also adding some water. I've already added half a liter of water. And now I'm adding another half a liter. I added half a liter when I was blending the tomato with the tomato sauce. So I've added another half a liter. So I'm going to bring this to a boil before adding in the pasta. I'm going to bring this to a boil, let it boil for a couple of minutes before adding the pasta. So I'm bringing this to a boil. I'm going to add tomato paste, 100 grams of tomato paste now, before adding in the pasta at the end. Okay, so I've added the 100 grams of tomato paste. It should give it a nice deep red color, and also very nice tomato taste. So I'm just going to bring all this to a boil before adding in the pasta. And bring this to a boil before adding in the pasta. Okay, so before adding the pasta, you have to make sure you let the water come to a boil. I've decided to add another 250 milliliters of water, 300 milliliters of water, because the sauce looks a bit thick and we're cooking the pasta in here, so you need the sauce to be thin like this. So when the sauce is thin like this, you can add in the pasta when it starts to boil. So I'm just waiting for this to start boiling before I add in my pasta. Okay, I'm going to be adding 450 grams of this pasta, penne pasta. You can add in macaroni, elbow pasta, any kind of small pasta like this will go fine. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and this has started to bubble. At this stage, for those of you with fussy children or even adults, you can turn this off, let it cool down let it cool down for 10 minutes, and you can blitz this in the blender, bit by bit, not all of it in one go. You can blitz all of this in the blender to make it very smooth so the children won't notice they're eating vegetables. They won't notice they're eating any kind of vegetables. You can put in mixed vegetables as well. You don't have to put cauliflower. You can put in mixed vegetables, mixed frozen vegetables instead of the cauliflower. But you can blitz this all together and the children will never notice that they're eating vegetables before cooking it in the pasta. So this has come to a boil now. I'm going to add in the pasta. Okay, so I've just added in the 450 grams of pasta. We're going to let this come to a boil and then we're going to put a lid on and leave it for 12 minutes on medium-low heat, on low heat. So I'm going to let this come to a boil. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to put a lid on this and let it cook for 12 minutes on low heat. 12 to 15 minutes on low heat. Actually, it would cook in 12 minutes, but because it's going to be on low heat, I'm going to let it cook for 15 minutes. So I'm going to bring this to a boil and then put a lid on it. Okay, I'm going to serve my pasta with cucumber salad and sardines. That's why I call this a quarantine lockdown meal, because I bought a fair amount of sardines because of this coronavirus going on. So I'm going to try it with my pasta today with this salad. I'll show you how it looks when I prepare it. So I'm just going to chop this up into small pieces and then I'm going to add some dressing to the sardines. I'm going to drain out the olive oil from the sardine. Okay, so the sauce has started bubbling. Now I'm going to put a lid on it. The sauce with the pasta inside. I'm going to put a lid on it. This is a one pot dish and we're not going to drain anything. The water from the pasta, it will make the sauce nice and thick. So I'm going to check on this after 10 minutes. See how it's going. 10-12 minutes. See how it's going. So I'm going to put it on low heat now. So put it on low heat. I'm going to put a lid on it. Okay, while I'm waiting for the pasta to cook, I've prepared my little salad of cucumber with salad cream, teaspoon of salad cream, and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and a teaspoon of lemon juice, and on top I've put the sardines, the canned sardines. Instead, you can have it with tuna if you don't like sardines, or you can have it with mackerel, tin mackerel. I have my sardines in here. So next will come the pasta. You have to make sure you cook your pasta with a lid on it on low heat for 12 minutes. I have this makeshift lid because this pan didn't come with a lid. So, but you use proper lid. You don't want to burn yourself. I've been cooking for a while, so I can handle this. Yes, you don't want to burn yourself with the steam, but you need to put a lid on it to make sure that it cooks evenly, all the pasta. So I'm going to check up on this. It's already been about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to check up on this after 7 minutes. Okay, it's been around 8 minutes. I'm just checking up on it, make sure it's not burning in the bottom. Make sure you use a non-stick pan so nothing burns in the bottom. It's looking good. I'm just gonna mix it for a few seconds, and then I'm gonna put the lid back on. I also want to say at this point, if you want to be extra fancy, you can put the whole thing into a pan, oven pan, and grate some cheddar cheese or mozzarella cheese on top and put it in the oven for 15 minutes on high. You can have a nice pasta bake, but I'm trying to avoid cheese, so I'm just going to have it this way. I might put a little bit of parmesan. I said I'm avoiding cheese, but I'm going to put might put a little bit of parmesan at the end. Yes, just a little drop of parmesan. Or maybe not, I'm avoiding cheese. Yeah. So if you want, you can grate some cheese, like 200 grams of cheddar cheese or mozzarella, put it on top, and put it in the oven on high heat for 15 minutes, and it'll be delicious. But I'm gonna put my lid back on here and let it cook on low heat for another 5 minutes, and it'll be done. Okay, it's been around 14 minutes altogether that the pasta's been on, and it's ready and soft, and it's got a nice sauce. So I'm going to turn this off. This is ready now, ready to eat. So just make sure you mix all the sauce together well, and it's ready to eat.